Namaskar. I, Shambhavi, welcome you all to your channel Galactic Echoes. So let's start exploring the wisdom of Vedic astrology. And I would want to inform all of you that due to certain reasons, the schedule of uploading the video delayed, and I promise from now on that we'll bring videos more frequently. So let's start with the today's topic, and it is your Darakarka placed in all the houses of your D1 chart. So on this channel we have completed Darakarka placed in all the houses of the Navamsa chart, Darakarka placed in all the Nakshatras, and today we'll be discussing about Darakarka placed in all the houses of the D1, that is your birth chart. And as we have discussed in the Darakarka in the Navamsa chart video, that Darakarka placed in any house of the Navamsa chart is how for the spouse and the marriage. Like it answers the question how the spouse would affect or influence a certain portion, a certain area of your life. But the Darakarka placed in the D1 chart tells us what are the instruments or what are the areas which would be affected, and what is the significance of the Darakarka which would be there in your life, like the significance of the marriage, the spouse, what important fundamental changes the spouse would bring in your life is answered from the Darakarka placed in the D1 chart. Now this is the single realm which I am talking about of the what and the how. Darakarka can also tell us a lot of things about your spouse profile, his or her profession, and there are many things like meeting circumstances. There are so many things which we can decode with the Darakarka, with the 7th lord, with the Venus, with Mars, with Jupiter, which we would be discussing on this particular channel, so you have to stay tuned for that. Now let's start the video and let's start the Darakarka placed in the first house of your D1 chart. So let's dive in. So when your Darakarka is placed in the first house of the D1 chart, it shows that your personality, your life theme and your major decisions after marriage would be influenced by your spouse. This is the basic interpretation we can have from this Darakarka placed in the first house. The other thing is that I have seen many information of this particular planet and the position on the internet, and it goes like that the Darakarka in the first house mirrors the personality of this, he or she would mirror your personality, which in my belief is not at all possible, because mirroring is something in the first house. Darakarka, when the Darakarka is placed in the first house, the spouse would not mirror your personality. The spouse would be completely coming in, and he or she would be bringing in a kind of a foreign element in your life. So be it distance, be it financial status, be it culture, be it ethnicity, there would be some difference between you and them somehow, and whatever things you are lacking in your personality, these are the characteristics and traits they would be mirroring to you. For example, if you lack confidence, so they would be full of confidence. If you lack, if you are an introvert, so they would be an extrovert. If you are a person who is very talkative, so they would be very reserved. Now, this is what the difference would be when the Darakarka is placed in the first house. Now, the planet which this Darakarka is also, it would matter a lot, but specifically after marriage, what you would see that either you would start doing constructive investments, or somehow or the other your losses are somehow or the other your losses, specifically your financial losses, are curbed with the marriage. The other thing is that when the Darakarka is placed in the first house, it also suggests that somewhere or the other the Darakarka is bringing in that peace, and specifically that spiritual peace which you aim at. So whenever the Darakarka is placed in the first house, it's actually a good position if this planet is not damaged. So if it is not Saturn, because Saturn placed in the first house is in a Marnikarika sthan, But that too, actually Saturn placed in the first house and being a Darakarka, there are a lot of things you could decode with this particular placement. But first of all, what you have to see that the Darakarka, whenever it is sitting in the first house, it would influence your personality, your life's major decisions and your major life theme, your achievement and your path towards achievement. Why? Because they are fulfilling and they are bringing in those traits and characteristics which you lack in yourself, which you lack in your personality, right? The other thing is that with this Darakarka in the first house, there is also a kind of a belief that the person would be coming and approaching to you, like your spouse would approach you, and it is 70% of the times true that you don't have to go anywhere for your spouse, but they would come directly to you. But the thing is that somewhere or the other, this particular thing, is it true or not that the spouse would be coming towards you and you don't have to go anywhere and search for them? It heavily depends on the planet placed in the D1 chart in the first house and being the Darakarka. The other thing is that the material prosperity related to the house the Darakarka is sitting in comes only after the marriage is, like it has happened. Specifically, if you are trying to build something of a brand in your own name, or if you are trying to project yourself and something related to your own as material prosperity, basically this is about the professions. If you want to establish in those professions where your personality, your persona and your physical presence matters a lot, till the period you are unmarried, it would be very challenging and struggleful period for you people. But when the Darakarka enters, the spouse enters in your life, all those professions basically where your personality and your physical self is being required, it would take off. Like you need a partnership, and this does not only apply to partnership like marriage. Even if you are dating someone who is fulfilling the requirements which are present in your own chart, then also you would be able to see many opportunities, and that you are struggling less because of the presence of that person who is fulfilling those karakas which are required. So basically professions related to acting or social media presence, specifically these professions where your physique, your personality requires to project something on the people, on the masses. The other thing which is very very important to be taken care of with this Darakarka placed in the first house is that till the time you are unmarried or single, you cannot take major life decisions within the tattva of that planet. So for example, your Mars is the Darakarka and it is sitting in the first house. So what do I mean with this particular statement is that till the time you are not married, you should not take any decisions in anger, because Mars represents anger and any proactive decision or decision taken within a second. You just have to calm down yourself, think over it, and then take decisions, major decisions of your life. So you cannot be taking the decisions related to that particular planet, like the tattva of that planet, in the phase you are unmarried. Like if your sun is the Darakarka placed in the first house of the D1 chart, so you cannot take any major life decisions because of ego issues. This is something which you should be very very careful of, because if you make those decisions, and actually let me tell you that you would be tempted at least twice in your life to make this kind of an action. Wherever the Darakarka is sitting and you are unmarried or you are single, the tattva of that particular planet would tickle you. But you have to be very sure that you do not take any major decisions related to that particular planet, the tattva of that particular planet, when you are not backed by your spouse, or you are unmarried, or you are single, and you don't have that particular manifestation of that particular planet in your chart, Darakarka. So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka placed in the first house of your D1 chart. Basically, what do we get from this particular interpretation is that Darakarka placed in the first house would affect your major life theme, your personality, your decisions after marriage. So what is answered here? And how he or she will be able to affect it? You have to check that particular placement of the Darakarka in the Navamsa chart. And the video, the link of the video I have given below in the description. You can check it out from there, where your Darakarka goes in the Navamsa chart. Also, do check where this Darakarka is sitting in what nakshatra in the D1 chart. I have discussed that in another video. I would give the link in the description. Do let me know what are the new topics you would want me to bring up on this channel, and let's move on to the second placement of the Darakarka placed in the second house of your D1 chart. Now, when you have Darakarka placed in the second house of your D1 chart, first of all, what you would see with this particular placement is that the Darakarka, basically your spouse, after marriage would affect your second house. So basically your speech, your family, your bank accounts, so basically your saving decisions, because the second house is the house representative of the savings in our life. So how you save your money and where is that money to be parked, all of these things are influenced by your Darakarka, basically your spouse. How your hoarded wealth should be utilized, all of these decisions your spouse would somehow influence. Now, if this influence is good or not, that you would be able to know from your D9 chart, because how the person is affecting your Navamsa, the link is in the description below, you can check out that video. But basically the D1 answers the what for the Darakarka, like what is that particular thing the spouse is affecting, influencing in our lives. So that is the second house in your case. Now this is the most basic interpretation we can have with the Darakarka placed in the second house, but there are layers to it. First of all, when the Darakarka is placed in the second house, you would see somehow or the other whatever personality you carried till in your life. Like if you were an extrovert, so you would see that there is a complete change of that particular personality. So you would want to become an introvert. If you were an introvert, you would want to become an extrovert. If you had, you were very money minded and you were very miser, you would become luxuriously spending person without thinking. So basically the Darakarka, whenever it is in the second house, it gives you a kind of a shift, particularly in your personality, in your thought process, in your way of thinking. These are the major areas which would see a shift in your life. The other thing is that a lot of things would depend on the planet if it is damaged or well placed in the chart, your Darakarka. Then this shift would come naturally or as a benefic thing in your life. If damaged, then things can go downhill, right? You would also see that somewhere or the other, this Darakarka is going to unlock the material prosperity of the second house only after marriage. So what does it represent? That even if you have ample amount of wealth inherited from your family or otherwise, or you were born in a well-to-do family, in an affluent family, or you had ample amount of savings too before you got married, but somehow or the other the material prosperity of the second house was missing. So this is the catalyst for the material prosperity Darakarka is, which would activate it after marriage. So basically what you would see is that you would start purchasing perfumes after marriage. You would start loving exotic food, dining out more frequently than you did before marriage, and you would want to engage in buying gold or jewelry or these kind of and aromatic candles, all of these things which beautify the home and your environment is something which you would be pulled towards after the marriage. So the material prosperity activates after the marriage. Like basically, even if you have ample amount of money before marriage, still you would not want to buy all of these things, because the Darakarka is activating the material aspect of your second house. These things only they will be only visible after marriage. The other thing is that it is really very important actually, whenever the Darakarka is placed in the second house, it is very, very important for you to check the planet, what planet it is, what are the signs ruled by this Darakarka. Why? Because it becomes very important for you to assess this placement, because somehow or the other this placement is giving your own personality a shift after marriage. Now it is important for you to understand if this shift is going to be done swiftly in a benefic manner or not, because when your earth trikona is activated with the Darakarka placed in it, right, somehow or the other I have seen in this particular placement that the profession of the person is sometimes disturbed because of the sense of duty. Like this is your duty to do this particular thing, that is why you have to compromise your profession at some point of time. Like I have seen, this only not goes for the woman. I have also seen so many men having this particular placement, and they were being offered a good offers to work abroad or to study abroad, but because of the fact that they were married, they were already married, they could not grab that particular opportunity. This was the sense of duty which was on their shoulders, that they have to take care of their family. That is why the earth trikona got compromised. Why? Because the Darakarka was not sitting in a good dignity. So it is very important for you to check this, what this Darakarka, if it is Venus, Saturn placed in a very good sign, airy sign, watery sign, then that's great. Also Darakarka placed in a particular element of the sign is also, it would suggest a lot of many things. Moreover, the next important thing which comes with this particular placement is that whatever the tattva of the planet is, you should not rely on that particular element while making major decisions related to the second house. So basically, let's say if your Darakarka is Saturn and is sitting in the second house, so you cannot take, and if you are unmarried, this is specifically for the people who are unmarried or single till now. Like I don't know if you are dating the right person or not, so this goes for the marriage only. Till the time you are unmarried, you cannot take major decisions related to the second house based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. So basically, if your Saturn is the Darakarka placed in the second house, you cannot delay the decisions related to the second house. If there is a saving which needs to be done, you should do it right away. If there is something related to some kind of a decision related to family, you should completely get it done with as soon as possible, because the more you delay, the more the Karka of the Darakarka is playing in your decision. It is not giving you any kind of guarantee that it would land in a perfect manner. So it's important for you to understand that whatever the tattva of the planet is, Darakarka is, you cannot use that particular element to make the major decisions of the second house. So basically your family, your savings, your hoarded wealth, your family business, if you are in a family business, or if you think that you would join a family business, you should not wait that till I am mature, I won't be going into my family business. Start learning from whatever your family business is from day one. Like when if you are 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever, 20, and you are in your graduation, whatever you are doing, and you are thinking let us complete this particular graduation, and then I would start learning about my family business or my hoarded wealth. No, this approach would not give you benefic results. So it is important that you don't use the tattva of the planet, Darakarka planet, till the time you are unmarried to take major decisions of the second house. So this is how we decode the placement of the Darakarka placed in the second house of your Devon chart. Also, I have made the video on the Darakarka in the Navamsa chart, and the Darakarka placed in all the nakshatras. I have given the link in the description below. Go and check it out. You would learn more about Darakarka, and do let me know in the comment section below what new topics I should be bringing up on this channel. Let's move forward. Let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the third house of your Devon chart. Now, when you have your Darakarka placed in the third house of your Devon chart, the first and the foremost thing with this particular Darakarka is that what it would influence your spouse after marriage, would influence your relationship with your siblings, younger siblings. The kind of efforts you put in any kind of work in your life. The other thing with this particular Darakarka is that either the spouse after marriage would boost your courage, or it would drain it. That would depend on the Darakarka planet and its dignity. The other thing is that whenever the Darakarka is placed in the third house, you have to take this particular fact into consideration, that whatever the spouse they have learned in their family, whatever kind of communication and relationship building, hoarding of wealth, or any kind of whatever learnings they have learned from their family, is something they would want to apply in your own third house. So what does it mean is that, let's say if they have learned in their family that they should be saving up every time, even if it is not needed, even if you have a large emergency corpus, even if you don't need any kind of extra saving this month, still you should save. This is specifically something which they would want to instill in your own efforts. They would make sure that you are putting similar kind of efforts towards your money. Or if they have learned that whatever elders want to do, they can do, but it is upon their will and we cannot disrespect them whatever they are doing. So if they have learned this particular thing, they would apply this particular thing on your efforts. So they would want you to behave in the same kind of a manner. So this is the kind of a thing actually which is sometimes very difficult for people who are freedom oriented or something like that, or if they don't find a common ground with their spouse after marriage upon which they could negotiate all of these things. Specifically, communication is actually a very important thing with this particular Darakarka. The way they have learned in their family, whatever communication, like if they are in the habit of speaking very loudly, they would make sure that with time, as the time passes after your marriage, you change into that kind of your communication style, change into that kind of a thing. If they are speaking very softly, so similar way, somewhere or the other, this placement can also be a kind of a very extremely benefic thing, because Darakarka, your spouse would want to talk everything out. Communication gap would be the most dreadful thing for them, and they would want to communicate in the similar manner as they have learned in their own family too. But if you are the person who is more of a a freedom oriented kind, you might find it challenging or difficult. Otherwise, I don't see that this is a challenging placement with respect to that of marriage. Courage is important, which they would be affecting, because if they have learned that you have to represent sheer courage in their family from the childhood, since the childhood, they would want to apply similar kind of things, and they would expect similar kind of things from you as well after marriage. And if there is something else, then that also goes with this particular placement. Basically, they would expect you to mirror the learnings of them which they have learned from their own family since childhood. This is the basic idea of this Darakarka placed in the third house. The other thing is that whenever the Darakarka is placed in the third house, you would also see that the material prosperity of the third house unlocks after marriage. So basically, if you want to enter into entrepreneurship, or if you want to enter in any kind of innovative venture, business ventures, something related to TV, media, or all of this kind of industry, or basically journalism, if these are the professions which you are aiming, they would only see a bhagyodaya after marriage. So you would become fortunate in this particular area of the third house only after marriage. So material prosperity only unlocks after marriage. The other thing is that till the time you are unmarried, you cannot, till the time you are unmarried, you cannot take major decisions related to the third house based on the tattva of your Darakarka. So what does that mean? Basically, whatever your Darakarka is, let's take an example of moon. If moon is your Darakarka, and you are standing at the juncture of your life where you have to take some major decision related to the relationship with your younger sibling, or any entrepreneurship decision, or any business venture decision, franchise business decision, or something like making profession in the TV, radio, media, journalism industry, any kind of that particular thing, or somewhere simply if you have to show your courage, parakram, like basically you are in a fight and you are thinking if you have to retort or not to that particular person, and moon is your Darakarka. So specifically, do not take decision in an emotional state. You cannot rely on this moon till you are unmarried. After your marriage, then also you should talk it out to your spouse first. But if you are taking any decision based on the moon, basically emotional side of yourself, of your personality, after marriage, without letting your husband or wife know, then also it is a possibility that it would be giving you benefic results. But till the time you are unmarried, it is not at all expected out of you that you are taking any kind of decisions related to the third house based on the tattva of the Darakarka, basically moon. If example, your moon is the Darakarka, you cannot take any emotional decision related to your younger sibling, related to your profession in TV, radio, media, journalism industry, or business ventures, or franchise business, or any kind of this Mercury related work. You should not be taking decisions based on the tattva of your moon, like basically of your Darakarka. If your Darakarka is Mars, do not take decisions in anger. If your Darakarka is Sun, do not take decisions in an egoistic way. Do not take decision when you are pride stricken. Do not take decision because of the fact that this is the ego battle which you are going to jump into. If your Darakarka is Saturn, do not take decisions with delay. So this is the basic thing which you have to understand. Try that you do not manifest the tattva of the Darakarka before marriage related to that third house business. Whatever other themes of the third house, you do not take any major decisions in that realm. So this is the basic way how you decode your Darakarka placed in the third house of your D1 chart. Now I have made the video for the Darakarka in the Navamsa and Darakarka in all the nakshatra. You can check it out from the description below. And there are lot many things connected with this Darakarka, because there are so many layers which we could decode with the Darakarka placed in any house, any sign, and a lot many things which we would discuss on this particular channel. So for that, stay tuned. Also do let me know in the comment section below what new topics I would bring on this channel. Let's move forward and let's understand the Darakarka placed in the 4th house of your D1 chart. Now when your Darakarka is placed in the 4th house of your D1 chart, the first and the foremost thing which you would see from this particular Darakarka is that your 4th house would be affected by the spouse after marriage. So basically your relationship with your mother, your home environment, your comfort, your investments in real estate or vehicles, house, like basically purchasing a property or anything which is the theme of the 4th house would be affected by your spouse after marriage. Now the thing is, this is the basic interpretation which we can gather with the Darakarka placed in the 4th house. The other thing is that if I have to tell you about Darakarka placed in the 4th house, if this Darakarka is not damaged, then that's really a very good blessing for you, because after marriage, witnessing boost in your happiness, your comfort, your relationship with your mother would also become better. It would also depend a lot if the Darakarka is air element planet, earth element planet. A lot of things would depend on the tattva of the planet itself, if it is a water element planet and air element planet or whatever the element of the planet is. But the basic thing is that somehow or the other the 4th house would be affected by your spouse after marriage. Now, how this partner would be able to, Darakarka would be able to affect your 4th house is the answer which you would get in the Navamsa. Darakarka plays in the Navamsa chart. For that, I have given the link in the description below. You can go and check it out. But specifically, let us talk about the Darakarka and the D1 in the 4th house. So, specifically, if you have to decode this Darakarka in an advanced way, what you would see is that whatever is the relationship of your spouse with their younger sibling, or whatever the way of their communication, the way they show courage, the way they want to put efforts in anything, is something which would affect your home environment, your comfort, your happiness and your relationship with your mother after marriage. So what does it mean is that, for example, if your spouse had the best relationship with the younger sibling in their life, let's say, and it was not their mother, it was not their father, but your spouse had the greatest relationship with the younger sibling. Now what they would bring into the family for you, like after marriage, is that they would want you to build similar kind of relationship with your own mother after marriage, right? If they are very courageous, perform their karma, show their parakram, and they would want to win the battlefield, what they would do is they would tell you that the happiness and the comfort could only be achieved if you follow these things. You will have to show a lot of courage, you will have to show a lot of efforts in everything, then only you can achieve something like that. So this is the mindset they are coming in from. Now actually, let me tell you that whenever you go for a marriage or a matchmaking with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 4th house, you would have to check your partner's 3rd house. The better the 3rd house is, the better your marriage is going to be, and the vice versa is also something, because their Darakarka is also would be also placed in some house, so you would also have to check your corresponding house also then, right? So the thing is that the better the Mercury is, the better your relationship after marriage is going to be. This is a basic sutra with the Darakarka in the 4th house. Now I have seen a lot many people telling me that, ma'am, I have my Darakarka in the 4th house and I think that my mother would be bringing in my spouse in my life. But that is completely different thing, because Darakarka in the D1 chart set the theme for your marriage which would be affected by it. So it does not necessarily mean that your mother would be bringing in your spouse or you would meet your spouse through your mother. This can be a possibility if your Darakarka is moon, if it is conjunct with moon, if it is conjunct with the 4th lord or something like that is happening. If not, then we cannot say that particular thing, right? So when the Darakarka is in the 4th house, you would have to be very sure that the person is having a good communication, is having a good relationship with the younger sibling or siblings in general. They are into TV, media, radio or journalism. Basically, they want to read the newspaper every morning. They want to be connected with the general news on daily basis. These are the traits which you would also see in your spouse if your Darakarka is well placed. If not, all of these things would reverse. The other thing with this Darakarka is that the material prosperity of the 4th house would only be unlocked after you get married. So basically, even if you had ample amount of money, even if you had ample amount of wealth, the comfort and the happiness and the luxurious 4th house living would be lacking somewhere or the other. So basically what does it mean is that when you come back to home after a stressful day before you are married, somewhere you would see that you are still struggling in the home. Somehow you thought if you would watch a show or a movie after coming back from the office, but somehow or the other you are not able to watch it. So basically the thing is the basic enjoyment, basic happiness and comfort is lacking. It would definitely be lacking, no matter what amount of wealth you have, no matter what amount of luxury you have, no matter what amount of money you have, what amount of real estate businesses you have, somewhere or the other the comfort would be lacking without the spouse. After the spouse is when the actual material prosperity of the fourth house unlocks. So even if you had similar kind of wealth, somehow you would start enjoying it after the marriage. This is the difference, this is the basic difference with the Darakarka placed in a house. The other thing is, it is very, very important for you to check the dignity of the planet, because then it would harm your courage, your efforts, your way of communication. And if you are specifically in any kind of this third house related profession, it is very important for you to check the dignity of the Darakarka in the fourth house. The other thing is that it is very important for all the unmarried people out there on the earth with this particular Darakarka in the fourth house. You do not have to make any major decisions related to the fourth house based on the tattva of the planet, which is your Darakarka. So basically, if your Darakarka is moon, you should not take any fourth house related decisions in an emotional state. Basically, you cannot be purchasing a land, a property or a vehicle because you are emotionally connected to it. If your Darakarka is Venus, you should not take any decision of the fourth house based on the Venus. That because your mother's health is suffering, but she is connected to this particular doctor because he or she is your family doctor and they have treated everyone very well since ages. So, and you love your mom too much. Venus is the Darakarka. You are in, completely like a good son and a good daughter, and you don't want to hurt the feelings of your mother. So, you are not nudging them to visit another doctor. This is something which you cannot be doing. If your Saturn is the Darakaraka and your mother is telling you that she wants to visit a doctor and you are delaying it, you cannot delay that particular thing. Any major decision related to mother, real estate, properties, land, vehicles, homes or anything related to the fourth house should not be done based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. Alright, this is the basic thing which you have to understand till you are unmarried. After you get married, so even if you have moon, your Darakarka plays in the fourth house, and you were emotionally connected to some particular country because you visited the country in your childhood and you are married. So you can take that decision that I would buy a land there. That is all right. But before that, you cannot do it. It would backfire in, majority of the cases. So this is how you decode your Darakarka placed in the fourth house of your Devon chart. And do let me know what new topics I should be bringing in on this channel. And do not forget to watch the Darakarka in the Navamsa and the Darakarka through all nakshatras video. I have given the link in the description. Let's move forward and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the fifth house of your Devon chart. Now when you have your Darakarka placed in the fifth house of your Devon chart, somewhere or the other you would see that your creative decisions, your basically romantic decisions, your decisions related to childbirth or progeny, they all are influenced by your spouse. So this is actually the placement when if males are having this particular placement, so it would only depend on your wife if she wants to have kids or not specifically. Now for that you would have to check the dignity of your Darakarka planet, and all the romantic decisions are also in their hands. So basically, if you can go on a date on a specific Sunday or on a specific weekend or not, how you would want to celebrate your wedding anniversary, or all of these things completely in their hands. So Darakarka is, in this way we can say that what is answered from the Devon chart. Wherever the Darakarka is sitting, it answers what your spouse would be influencing in your life, what themes, what house. So it is the fifth house. Now how they would influence it, this is something which we decode from the Navamsa, which you have to check. I have given the link in the description below for the video and you can go and check it out. But basically let's talk about the Darakarka and the Devon in more depth. So this is the basic interpretation which you would get with the Darakarka in the 5th house. The other thing, which is the most important thing with this Darakarka in the 5th house, is that if your partner had a bad relationship with their own mother, they would want to, get that, like all of that love from you. So it can become challenging at times. If they had like the best relationship with their mother, they would want to replicate it with you, in a similar kind of a way, right? The other thing is that the amount of real estate they have, basically the amount of wealth they have in terms of real estate, basically land, houses, properties, or all the assets, properties, real estates, or vehicles also. Although vehicle is a depreciating asset, but still we can count that particular thing too. They would want to upgrade it after this marriage. Whenever the Darakarka is in the 5th house, so I have seen that somewhere or the other the partner is constantly nudging you to buy a new home, or to buy a new car, or to buy a new real estate property, or to buy a new plot. Somewhere or the other they are obsessed with the idea of the 4th house. The other thing is that the Darakarka placed in the 5th house can also manifest in a manner where they would be engaged in some kind of activities which harm your own real estate assets. If your Darakarka is compromised in the 4th house, they would say that how does it matter if we have these many properties, plots or farms, because we cannot show it off to the world. This is what they can also be bringing in. If the Darakarka is well placed, they would advise you where you should be investing in, specifically in the real estate, how to grow yourself in the real estate business or assets related to real estate. So it would depend, a lot of things would depend on the planet and the dignity of the planet in the 5th house. The other thing is that with this Darakarka in the 5th house, basically somewhere or the other the actual material prosperity unlocks after the marriage, because of the fact that the 5th house is a Lakshmi Sthan, because it's a Trikona Bhav. So somewhere or the other you would see that the wisdom or the intelligence to grow yourself in material prosperity only comes after marriage. Will you be able to sustain it or not? Will the actions of your spouse would damage this prosperity or not? Would depend on the Darakarka planet. But this is sure that the true material prosperity, whatever it is in your chart, unlocks after marriage, unlocks after the entry of spouse. So this is how you would see this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 5th house. The other thing is, till the time you are unmarried, you should not take major decisions of your life based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. So let's say if you have so many conjunctions in the 5th house, and your Darakarka is Mars, and now you have completed your 12th board exams, and now you are thinking where I should apply for my college admissions, basically undergraduate admissions, and your Mars is the Darakarka sitting in the 5th house. You should not take it in anger. You see, so you cannot rely on the tattva of the Darakarka planet when you are making major life decisions related to the 5th house. Any romantic decisions in your life, because romantic decisions people make when they are single, right? So you should not make those decisions based on the karakas of, like the tattva of that particular Darakarka planet. You should not make romantic decisions in ego if your sun is the Darakarka. You should not make emotional decisions if your moon is Darakarka related to your romantic partnerships or encounters in life, because all of these things would backfire. And let me tell you that you would be tempted to do so once or twice in your life. You have to be very careful in that particular phase, specifically if you are unmarried and if you are thinking of dating someone, if you are thinking of activating your 5th house romantic affairs. Make sure that you are not making those decisions based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet in the 5th house. Otherwise, the Darakarka planet in the 5th house is really a good placement if this Darakarka is supportive. For example, if you are a Leo rising and your Mars is Darakarka sitting in the 5th house, then this is really a very good placement. This is how you decode the Darakarka in the D1 chart placed in the 5th house. Do let me know in the comment section below which new topics I should be bringing on this channel, and please do not forget to watch Darakarka in the Navamsa and through all the Nakshatra videos. I have given the link in the description. Let's move forward and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 6th house of your D1 chart. Now, when you have your Darakarka placed in the 6th house of your D1 chart, the Darakarka, your spouse after marriage, would affect your habits related to taking debts, loans, or anything about how you deal with your enemies, how you deal with your diseases, or any kind of crisis situations which are mild in nature, because the grave crisis situations, emergency situations are seen from the 8th house, but these are the 6th house. They are more milder ones and they could be managed. So all of these areas would be affected by your spouse. So this is the answer to the what the Darakarka, what the spouse is affecting in our lives, influencing in our lives. So this is the 6th house, the themes of the 6th house. Your relationship with your maternal cousins or your cousins at large is also something which is in this package only, right? Now the thing is that with the Darakarka in the 6th house, you would have to check the dignity of the Darakarka planet. If it is in a good or bad dignity, that would define how this Darakarka would be affecting, influencing the particular relationship. If it is damaging the relationship or if it is boosting the relationship, that is something which would be decoded by the dignity of the planet. And how the planet, the Darakarka, would be able to do so, and like how he or she would achieve this particular target is something which is decoded from the Navamsa placement of the Darakarka. For that I have given the link in the description below. You can check out the video of the Darakarka placed in all the houses of the Navamsa chart. So you would get the idea about the how Darakarka would achieve the 6th house themes in your life. Now this is the most basic way to interpret your Darakarka or the spouse or his relationship to you. But somewhere or the other, people are afraid with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 6th house that my spouse is my enemy, or he would be giving me all the problems in the world. He is or she is going to drag me into the court cases. All of these things, they can be true and they can be also false, because for that you will have to decode your own D1, D9 chart, if it is even there or not. Now, how would you decode it? The most important thing when the Darakarka is in the 6th house is that the education your spouse is having, the romantic affairs he or she has been through, the level of creativity they have, and the creative expression they have will tell you what this Darakarka, this spouse, would bring. So for example, with this Darakarka, I would recommend all of you people to marry an artist. Be it an actor, a painter, a writer, director, a filmmaker, or a sculptor, or something, anyone who is having ample amount of creative expression. Then this Darakarka would define your 6th house in a positive manner. Why? Because he or she is having a well disposed 5th house, which is very, very important. Or it is very important for you to marry someone who is having a solid educational background. So basically, they have done their undergraduate from a very reputed university or college, because if they have that amount of 5th house, well disposed 5th house, the way they would affect your 6th house is something which is very kind of a good. Also with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 6th house, I have seen a lot of people, they have their spouse who are working in the field of law. Either they are teaching law or they are practicing law, or somehow or the other law becomes very major theme with this particular placement. even if you go for that particular spouse or for that particular person, you have to make sure that they are having a good amount of educational backing and they have good amount of creative expression. If not, they are professionally engaged in it, so they are good at drawing, singing or something like that. If that is something which they possess, your 6th house would be affected in a positive manner. So they would guide you how to take loans, how to manage your debts, how to profit out of loans, why taking debt is important, how to tackle your enemies, how to tackle any crisis situation, how to tackle problems at your job front. They would also help you to make your CV or something like that. They would give really good inputs in your CV and for your interview round, so that you can get that particular job with a good package. And I don't know why, but I have seen in most of the charts that the placement of the Darakarka in the 6th house, what kind of negative association it attaches, it does not drag the people into courts, but it gives them kind of a isolation. People who are having Darakarka in the 6th house and they come to me for a reading and they tell me about their relationship with the spouse, and they say that it's a very kind of an isolated thing. They do their work, which I don't do, and I do mine. So I am financially independent, I am cooking my own meals, and I just have my own world. Even if I am married, so I feel like I am single. This is the kind of effect which I have seen. Why they don't go for a separation, like a legal separation? So they say that it is useless, because we already are living in the same house and we are already separated. So it really is not important, or it is not something which is the need of the hour. So this is the kind of a dynamic which I have covered till now, but because of the fact I have not seen any other kind of dynamic with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 6th house till now. Do let me know in the comment section below if you have this particular placement, and if you are married, what kind of dynamic you are, negative or positive, you are having with your spouse. That would really help me in the study of astrology. Moreover, the next important thing which you have to be very careful of this particular Darakarka in the 6th house, which is pertaining to your own self, till the time you are unmarried, you should not be making decisions related to the 6th house based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. So let's say if your moon is the Darakarka sitting in the 6th house, you should not take any decisions related to debts, loans, how to tackle your enemies or diseases emotionally. You cannot rely on the tattva of the Darakarka planet till you are unmarried. So emotional decisions in all of these realms would backfire. So it is advised that you take decisions which is well informed decisions. Not if your Mercury is the Darakarka, your younger siblings, your cousins, and their advice is something which you should get second opinion on, related to diseases and debts, loans, your enemies, your jobs specifically. So this is how it is important for you to understand, because somewhere or the other, till the manifestation of the spouse is not there in your life and you are relying on the tattva of the Darakarka planet, it might backfire. So it's better to not go into that direction. Also one thing, the material prosperity of the 6th house would only be unlocked after marriage. So if you have, if you were working in a top MNC and you had a great package, still somehow or the other you would feel your job is stressful. But after your marriage, whatever job, company or package you would end up with, somehow or the other you would see that your job is not much stressful, and on the other hand it gives you a proper learning, it gives you a proper work and personal life balance, and it gives you basically the 6th house material prosperity is there. Even if you take loans in the time you are unmarried, somehow or the other they would not be able to give you the benefit. So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka placed in the 6th house of your D1 chart. Do let me know in the comment section below what new topics I should be bringing on this particular channel. And yes, of course, do not forget to watch the Darakarka placed in the Navamsa chart and the Darakarka through all the 27 Nakshatra video. I have given the link in the description. Let's move forward and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 7th house of your D1 chart. Now, when you have your Darakarka placed in the 7th house of your D1 chart, the first and the foremost thing is that how you present yourself to the outer world, how you make, what kind of partnerships, business partnerships you get into, or how you have, if you get some opportunities after marriage, how you perform in those opportunities, what is your attitude towards those fortunate moments, those good opportunities in your life. All of these things would be defined by your spouse, by your Darakarka after marriage. So your spouse plays a very vital role in all the areas of the 7th house where you have to present yourself to the outer world. Specifically, if you are a businessman or a businesswoman, what kind of partnerships you get into, or specifically how you grab the opportunities coming from all the areas of your life, be it professional opportunities, education related opportunities, wealth generation opportunities, whatever opportunities you are getting in your life, how you perform in them is specifically affected and influenced by your partner after marriage. So this is the answer to the what question which we have asked in the previous video of the Darakarka in the Navamsa chart, that what is answered from the D1 chart and how the spouse would be able to influence your own 7th house is seen from the Darakarka placed in the Navamsa. I have given the link of that video in the description below. You can go and watch it out. So basically, the what is answered in the terms of your Darakarka in the 7th house. It does also mean that your own partnership, the steering wheel of your own marriage is in the hands of your partner, is in the hands of your spouse, that he or she is the person to make major decisions which are to be taken in the form of a couple. You both are after marriage. So specifically childbirth, joint assets or something like that, or basically all the things which required where to settle in life, what city, what country, what state you both would be choosing. All of these things would be heavily influenced by your spouse, your Darakarka. So this is the basic interpretation of the what which is answered by the Darakarka planet in our D1 chart. Now specifically, if I have to be telling you an advanced concept which we can decode from this Darakarka is that the Darakarka, your spouse, is bringing in all the matters related to, like, specifically when you have your Darakarka in the 7th house, what you have to do is you have to check what is the relationship of your spouse with his or her cousins, be it maternal side cousins or paternal side cousins, but specifically cousins are very important. What kind of relationship they possess, they have with them. If it is a good relationship, they would try to bring that particular kind of a vibe in your marriage also. So this would mean that you both are more like friends, or you both are more like practical friends who have each other's backing as a partner, rather than the lovebirds sort of a scenario. Or if the person is having a bad relationship with their cousin, your spouse, your would-be spouse, so he or she would want to foster a good relationship with you in the marriage, and the similar kind of expectations they have from their cousin, whatever their personality is, and whatever their expectations are from the people they could fall back upon on, similar kind of expectations they would bring it in this particular marriage. So for example, if they expected their cousins to behave in a particular manner, that no matter what, we don't have to leave each other, we cannot backstab each other, we cannot tell anyone, like your parents or my parents, what we are doing. Similar kind of expectations the person, your spouse, would be bringing into the marriage also. So this is how you would see this particular personality. But most importantly, I have seen people who are having Darakarka in the 7th house, somewhere or the other, they have this particular repeated pattern in their life, that their spouse is either a doctor or some kind of a healer, psychiatrist or something like that, or he or she is a lawyer. Their work profile involves some kind of conflict, and solving that conflict. And this is the same thing which they will carry in the marriage also. Now, if this Darakarka is well placed in the 7th house, it really suggests that you are going to get a good partner, you are going to get a good spouse, because he or she is aiming to solve the problem rather than to escalate it, rather than escalating it, right? And which is the basic fundamental of this, marriages. They would want to avoid the conflicts so that adjustments could be made. This is the Darakarka in the 7th house. Moreover, this is also a very important thing, that when your Darakarka is in the 7th house, all the possible material prosperity are only unlocked after your marriage. So basically, even if you are very wealthy, you are coming from an affluent family, somewhere or the other you would see that the balance you want to achieve in the luxury and the comfort and working hard and like basically the risk and the reward is somewhere missing. But as soon as the marriage happens, for all of you people, Darakarka in the 7th house, somewhere or the other you would see that the balance is created, and you have ample amount of support, ample amount of saving also and expenditure also. You have luxury also, and you are working hard also. You have comfort also, and you are thinking about constantly upgrading yourself also. So basically, this is kind of a balance which it creates. Moreover, all the people who are having their Darakarka in the 7th house, and somewhere or the other their profession is connected to the term market, be it stock market, be it actual market, any kind of market. So basically, they are in any kind of business, their business would see a sharp rise after marriage. So basically, material prosperity is unlocked only after marriage in terms of business, partnerships, business ventures, and all of the things which requires diplomacy or working hard or negotiating something or the other, basically a deal or something like that. So even if you are a great negotiator or you have great communication skills, still you would find it difficult to crack big deals. After your marriage, it would become easier for you. So this is also what this Darakarka in the 7th house explains. There are a lot of cases where materialism, like material prosperity, do unlocks, but somehow or the other the marriage does not survive, and then there is a lot of stuff which happens. So that is the question to the sustenance of the prosperity. Will the prosperity which is unlocked with the entry of the Darakarka spouse would be able to sustain itself or not, is something which would be answered by the dignity of the Darakarka planet in the 7th house. So you would have to check it in your D1 chart, in your D9 chart. The other thing which is very important to this particular placement is that whenever you get married, somehow or the other you would see that your diseases, your deaths, your loans and your enemies, you are really released from all of those, like the clutches of all of those negative things coming from the 6th house. You would see this because the spouse would be able to advise you in a better manner about your loans, debts, how to manage them, how to tackle your enemies. So all of the negative karakas of the 6th house, they are really subsided with the marriage happening for all of you people. This is the kind of a balance which your spouse expects from you, and you would have to make the balance between your professional life and your this marriage, your love life, basically your marriage, your partnership, because you with this particular placement cannot be the person who is only into marriage or who is only into profession. If either of the way, it would backfire you. So it's better that you create that balance between your professional life and your married life. The other thing is, which is very, very important, which is something connected to your own individual self, that till the time you are unmarried, with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 7th house, you cannot rely on the tattva of the Darakarka planet while making major decisions related to the 7th house. So if you want to negotiate a deal and you want to put some pointers in front of the person, in front of the client you are conversing with, you are trying to break the deal with, and your Darakarka is moon sitting in the 7th house. So you cannot put emotional pointers, like points based on emotional logic. That would backfire. Whatever your Darakarka planet is, the tattva of the planet till the time you are unmarried should not be relied upon and should not be used while making the major decisions of the 7th house. The possibility is quite high that it would backfire in your life. When you are married and you have that planet's manifestation, that planet's physical manifestation in your life, then that's fine. And it actually would help you and become a catalyst for solving the 7th house deeds, be it consultancy, negotiations, or partnerships, business ventures, whatever, diplomacy. So all of these things would only manifest in a better way, specifically if you are tackling the tattva of the Darakarka planet when you are married. Before that, you should not be doing it. So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka in the 7th house of your Devon chart. Do not forget to watch the video Darakarka through all the houses in the Navamsa chart and Darakarka through all the 27 nakshatras. I have given the link in the description below, and please give me some ideas in the comment section below on which I should be making new videos on this channel. So let's move forward and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 8th house of your Devon chart. Now when you have Darakarka placed in the 8th house of your Devon chart, first and the foremost thing which you would see with this particular placement is that the spouse would want to influence all your presence in the 8th house. So basically your interest towards occult, mysticism, astrology, your joint assets with them, your behavior and your representation in their own family, basically in your own in-laws. So this is the spouse. The basic characteristics of the spouse in your life would manifest as if, so specifically the presence would manifest as if the partner, your spouse, is an astrology enthusiast. They would tell you that you should follow this person, he or she has great insights about astrology, mysticism, and do you know this theory about mysticism and all of these things. They would make sure that your presence is up to the mark in your in-laws, like in their own family. So basically they would tell you beforehand that what are the likes and dislikes of some person if you are going to meet any new relative in their family, so that you outshine everyone. So they would make this sure. Specifically with this Darakarka placed in the 8th house, they would want to build joint assets with you, be it a joint bank account, be it a joint any kind of asset which is taken in the joint name of you and your spouse, be it land, farm, property, anything. They would want that the partnership and this marriage is something which is taken very seriously. This is what they would make sure. The sustenance of the marriage would matter a lot to them. So they are these person, like if you marry once in your life, so this is their mindset which is being reflected from your own chart, Darakarka in the 8th house. So this is the what of the Darakarka. This is the answer to the what of the marriage. Like what areas of the life would be affected by your spouse, would be affected by your marriage. How is answered from the D9 chart. So for that you have to check the video. I have given the link in the description. Darakarka placed in all the houses of your Navamsa chart. But basically, this is the basic interpretation of the Darakarka in the 8th house. The other thing is, with this Darakarka in the 8th house, that somewhere or the other you would see very difficult to start a business venture, or if you want to get into a business, or if you want to do any kind of business in partnership with someone else. It would only manifest in a good manner if you do that partnership with your spouse. Other than that, it can backfire. The other thing is that the material prosperity of the 8th house unlocks only after marriage. So specifically for all of the people having Darakarka in the 8th house, the true inheritance and the inherited wealth can only be realized after their marriage. So basically, before your marriage, till the time you are unmarried, you won't be able to take, you won't be able to enjoy your inheritance, your hidden assets, your all of the things which are there in your family, basically in the form of inheritance. But this is only the thing in the family, that wealth corpus which is hidden and it exists in all the family, and then it is inherited by the people, basically by the children. That enjoyment of that particular corpus cannot be achieved without marriage or before it. So material prosperity would only be unlocked after that. I have also seen with this particular placement that the in-laws, your in-laws would also be very, their material prosperity unlocks after your own marriage. So whatever family you would be married into, this does not matter if you are a male or a female, your in-laws would see material prosperity after your own marriage happens, So this is also a kind of a thing with this particular placement. The other thing which is very important, and it should be taken into consideration very importantly, because this is under your own influence which you can change. So till the time you are unmarried, you should not take any decisions related to the 8th house based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. So for example, your Jupiter is the Darakarka and it is sitting in the 8th house. If you think that if I take some advice from a guru or a mentor, like some guidance from anyone, my teacher or maybe my father, because I can take this decision because I have ample amount of wisdom, that would backfire. And what decision? 8th house related decision. That till the time you are unmarried, for example, if you have seen in the major families in India, circumstance which you encounter in your life, that you have to somehow file your tax, or you are looking for some tax remittances, or some basically any freebies which you can get with the tax and filing for the tax, and you think that you have ample amount of wisdom to do it on your own and you are unmarried. While thinking all of this process, you should not be doing it, because there is a very high chance that it would backfire. If you have, let's say, moon in the 8th house and it's your Darakarka, and you are not married, but you are only engaged, and there is some help which your in-laws they require, or some kind of there is something which you want to do for your own in-laws because you are emotionally connected to them, is something which you should not do. Because moon is your Darakarka, it is sitting in the 8th house. Any emotional decision, any decision taken emotionally regarding the 8th house would backfire. So any inheritance related decision, so if for example, if your Mars is the Darakarka in the 8th house and you are taking any decision in the anger, that you had a fight with your brothers or your siblings, so basically you had a fight with your siblings and you took this decision out of anger, that I don't want any inheritance, and you just keep it all and you walk away from it. This is something which you should not do, because you are unmarried, so you don't have any manifestation of the Darakarka planet in your life. The other thing is that Mars is your Darakarka and you are using its tattva, anger, to make the decision of the 8th house. And if that is done in any manner, in any sort, it would negatively impact you. it can also negatively impact your whole life. So it is very important to understand this particular fact, that you should not use the tattva of the Darakarka planet sitting in the 8th house to make any decisions related to the 8th house till you are not married. So this is the most important thing which you should be taking care of, because you would be tempted at least twice in your life for this particular thing, and it is okay if you are married, then you can take that decision in the anger or in an emotional way, but till the time you are not married, you should not be doing it. So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka in the 8th house of your Divan chart. Don't forget to watch the Darakarka in the Navamsa chart video and Darakarka through all the 27 nakshatras, and please do let me know any new ideas on which I should be making videos in future. Let's move forward. Let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 9th house of your Divan chart. Now when you have your Darakarka placed in the 9th house of your Divan chart, the first and the foremost thing which you would see with this particular placement is that your spouse would influence your education, your beliefs, your philosophies, your relationship with your father, and your fortune, your opportunities, your luck. All of these things would be affected by them after the marriage. So whatever kind of the 9th house they have, whatever kind of personality they have, all of those kind of things would be reflected in your own 9th house somehow or the other. So this is the basic thing and the basic interpretation of the what which is answered in the Divan chart related to spouse, related to marriage through Darakarka. To understand how your spouse would be able to achieve this target, you should be checking the Navamsa chart and the Darakarka placed in the Navamsa chart. For that I have given the link in the description below, you can check out that video. But basically the Darakarka in any house in the Divan chart answers the what for the marriage, what the spouse would bring in your life. Now this is the basic interpretation for the Darakarka if you have to understand it on a basic level. If we go one step deeper into this particular dynamic, what we would be able to decode is that they want the married life to be sexually very vibrant. This is the first thing. The other thing is that the Darakarka, your spouse, if it is in a positive manner, achievements, targets related to inheritance or related to knowledge in astrology, occult mysticism, as they have, that you possess it. The expectation would be that I have this amount of knowledge in astrology, do you have it? And if you would say no, that would really make them think about this particular marriage, that was it their right decision or not. This is the kind of personality you would be witnessing in your partner. This thing also goes with the inheritance. So whatever kind of inheritance they had, so whatever their disposition was towards the inheritance, if they were really very ardent supporter of the inheritance, they would want you to be similar kind of a person. If they were nonchalant about the inheritance of their own, they would want you to behave in the similar manner. Now it can come in a clashing way, between you and them. So this can also produce a point of conflict in the marriage. Whatever their expectation was regarding inheritance, regarding joint assets, they would want similar kind of philosophies that you possess it, and they would want you to have similar kind of belief system and wants. This might come as a contrasting point. The other thing is that the material prosperity of the 9th house is only unlocked, only achieved after marriage, which is very important. So it represents that whenever you are married, you would see that the actual opportunities, the actual wealth and the actual bhagyodaya happens only then. Even if you are marrying someone who is coming from lower financial status to that of yours before marriage, after the marriage happens, you would see that you are able to get better opportunities regarding wealth accumulation and wealth multiplication. So basically, in true sense, the bhagyodaya happens whenever the Darakarka is in the 9th house. But somewhere or the other, the partner would want to influence your philosophy, your belief, specifically your religious beliefs. So if you are a non-practicing Hindu and your spouse is a practicing Hindu, they would want you to practice the religion as they are practicing. it might also come as a clashing point. Because the 9th house is the mool trikona of the Jupiter, and Jupiter does not like to be guided a lot. And when specifically this goes well if your Jupiter is a Darakarka and sitting in the 9th house, then that's the greatest placement you can have. But if it is another planet, let's say Saturn or Sun, minor contrasting beliefs between you and your partner. The other thing which is very, very important for you to understand, that your partner would want to have joint assets with you after marriage, because they will think that both of your fortune would grow if you people would pool in everything in a joint asset. But let me tell you, I am not saying you to deny them altogether, but you should have a separate amount of money which you are keeping just to yourself. That is very important, because 8th house, the house preceding your Darakarka, is a very sudden kind of a house. The themes are very sudden, so you never know what happens. Also, your personality of the spouse would also be ever changing. You won't be able to predict their nature. At one point they are something else, the other point they are totally different. So this is also a kind of a thing which happens. But it is my advice that you keep some kind of an amount on monthly basis in your personal account also. Do not pool all your resources into the joint account, into the joint asset, with this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 9th house. Now, the other thing which is very, very important, is very important for you to be aware of it, that till the time you are not married, you should not rely on the tattva of the planet, which is your Darakarka, to make major decisions related to the 9th house in your life. If you are having Jupiter as a Darakarka and is sitting in the 9th house, I have told you it's a good position, it's a good placement. But till the time you are not married, you cannot completely rely on the advice of your mentor to guide yourself in the matters related to higher education, in the matters related to fortune and wealth accumulation, in the matter related to your relationship with your father. So these are very important things that you'd have to understand. If your Jupiter is a Darakarka, if your moon is a Darakarka, you cannot take emotional decisions related to your father, or related to your higher education, or related to your higher beliefs, philosophy, religion, etc. So basically the tattva of the planet is something which you cannot rely on to make the decisions regarding that particular house, which is the 9th in your case. Because it is very important for you to understand that if you do so, higher is the chance that it would backfire or it would impact you negatively. So it's better that you only make 9th house related decisions in your life based on the tattva of your Darakarka planet only after marriage. It would then manifest in a better way than before marriage. So this is the most important thing which you should be very careful of, and would be bringing more videos about the Darakarka, your spouse profile, their profession and the meeting circumstances. So for that, stay tuned, and do not forget to watch the Darakarka placed in the Navamsa chart and Darakarka through all the 27 nakshatras video. I have given the link in the description. Let's move forward and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 10th house of your D1 chart. Now when your Darakarka is placed in the 10th house of your D1 chart, what you would see is that your Darakarka, your spouse, would affect your profession, your public dignity, the way you interact with the family of your father, basically your paternal relatives. What are the achievements or the targets you want you want to achieve because of to establish your own public dignity. So public image and its representation. So basically your relevance, the way you represent yourself in the public sphere is something which is totally influenced by your own partner and your spouse. So this is the answer to the what of the question which we were which we can ask for the Darakarka placed in any house of the D1 chart. It answers the what for the marriage, what through the spouse, what areas would be influenced after marriage or through the spouse. For the how, you have to check the placement of the Darakarka and the Navamsa. The link is in the description below, you can watch the video from there. But this is the basic interpretation of the Darakarka in the 10th house. that somewhere or the other it would influence your own public dignity, your own profession, and the way you want to move ahead in your profession. Now let's move into the more depth. The Darakarka in the 10th house would give you a spouse, a kind of a spouse, who would want to establish this marriage, establish this union in a very pious religious form, in a very pious religious kind of a form. So basically they would want to set an example in the society that you as couple are the most sattvic couple in the whole of the family or in the whole of the Khandan Kutumb. You see, so what they would want to do is that you do your work, I do my work professionally, we are like great, we are doing awesome, and we are the people who are not at all influenced by the society, you know, whatever the things are prevalent in the society right now, basically cheating, extramarital affairs, all of these things. These terms are not in our dictionary. This is the kind of a spouse he would want to achieve it with you. This can also become a challenging position if the Darakarka is not well placed, if the Darakarka is placed in a fixed sign. So it could go beyond being a power couple, and it could go like, you know, we don't go to parties, we don't go to clubbing, we cannot hold hands in the public, and all of these things, you know, which are extremely traditional, that they would want this marriage to be projected as the most traditional union ever. Now what is the level of the traditionalism is something which your Darakarka in the 10th house would tell you. Is it a healthy boundary or projection which they are trying to create, or it is becoming a bit of toxic? This is something which you would decode from your own chart. The other thing is that somewhere or the other after marriage, if the Darakarka is not well disposed and if the dignity of the Darakarka is not well placed, then you would have to work so hard for achieving anything in your life after marriage. So basically you would see that your opportunities are shrinking, that your luck is shrinking after marriage, and you have to work so hard to get at least something which is very minimal in nature. But this would only happen if the Darakarka is really in a very bad dignity, in a very compromised dignity. If it is sitting in a good dignity, in a neutral dignity, in a balanced manner, so you would get only that amount of opportunities which you deserve, which your hard work deserves. You would also see with this Darakarka in the 10th house that somewhere or the other the material prosperity unlocks only after marriage related to the 10th house. So somewhere or the other you would see that, you know, you are achieving the highest of the packages after your marriage professionally. So this is where the role of your spouse in your professional term comes in. Maybe he or she is the person who is advising you to form your CV in this manner, who is giving you inputs for your interview rounds, and they are helping you to get selected in a good company, in a good environment with a good package. So somewhere or the other you would see that material prosperity related to profession, related to career only manifests after marriage, and it's a very good placement for the Darakarka in the 10th house if it is a malefic placed in a fiery sign in the 10th house. So basically if you are a Cancer rising, Sun is the Darakarka placed in the 10th house, it is exalted, so it is really a very good placement. Or even if your Saturn is placed in the 10th house and is debilitated and it is the Darakarka, then also it you can convert it into a good placement. This is something with the Saturn, you know, this is the condition with the Saturn. The other thing which is very important for you to understand is, because it is coming from your individual self, that before you get married, you don't have to rely on the tattva of the element of the Darakarka planet to take major decisions connected to the 10th house. So basically any professional decisions, you cannot take any professional decisions based on the tattva of your Darakarka planet. So basically if your Sun is the Darakarka, it is sitting in the 10th house. So you cannot take any decisions in an ego kind of a manner, or you cannot take any professional decision because your ego was hurt, because you are going through an ego battle with some colleague, with some boss. If your moon is Darakarka in the 10th house, you cannot take any professional decision in an emotional way. This is something which is very important for you to be careful of. because I've seen at least once or twice in your life you would be tempted to make this mistake, and it's very important for you to understand this, that you do not do it till you are not married. You can do this particular thing after you are married, after you have the physical manifestation of the planet in your Darakarka planet in your life. Before that, it is not advisable to do that thing, right? So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka in the 10th house of your Devan chart. Now when you have your Darakarka placed in the 11th house of your Devan chart, the first and the foremost thing which you will see with this particular Darakarka is that the gains, hopes, wishes and desires, your incoming wealth, all of these things, your relationship with your elder sibling is influenced by your spouse after marriage. So somewhere or the other, it does represent that you would, if this Darakarka is sitting in a very good position, that you would gain a lot with this particular marriage. Or if the Darakarka is not sitting in a very good position and it is a little bit of compromised, then there would be problems which you would encounter related to the 11th house, basically your gains and your incoming wealth after marriage. What kind of gains one can expect from this particular placement is that you would see that after marriage, somehow or the other, the event in itself of the marriage or the person you married to has become some kind of a catalyst. Maybe they are your lucky person and they are coming in your life with that particular luck. That is why your hopes, wishes and desires and your incoming gains, your wealth, basically incoming wealth is, and your flow of money increases somehow. But the other thing which you have to be very careful about with this Darakarka in the 11th house, why? Because Darakarka in the 11th house and the spouse influencing your 11th house is the basic interpretation of this particular placement, that your spouse would somehow or the other influence your 11th house. But how he or she will be able to do that? For that, you will have to check your Darakarka placed in your D9 chart, in your Navamsa chart. There is where we get the answer of the how. I have given the link in the description below for that video. You can check it out after this one. So coming back to the point, now the other thing which is very important for you to check with this particular Darakarka in the 11th house is that what kind of relation the particular Darakarka is having with the 10th lord or with the 10th house, the house preceding to it. Because somewhere or the other you would see that if this Darakarka is well placed, because it's a Upachya bhav, you see, otherwise I would have told that you would get multiple sources of income after marriage, because somehow or the other if your Darakarka is well placed, it would channelize your income sources, but it would also shrink the opportunities of your own profession, whatever profession you were in before marriage. So this is also something which you have to be very careful of. But the 11th house is the Upachya bhav, so you would have to check the relationship of this particular Darakarka planet to the 10th lord and the 10th house. The way it is disposed, because 10th and 11th they both are the Upachya bhav, right? So the way it is making the relationship with the 10th house, with the 10th lord, in that manner you would see if your opportunities related to profession would shrink or if it would remain neutral. So basically what this particular position states is that you would say that I am contradicting myself, that I am telling you that your income would boost after marriage, but your profession might see some blockages. How is that possible? If we are not working and if we are not getting promotion at our work front, how we are gaining this wealth, or how we are boosting our income? This is because of the fact that there is a high possibility that after marriage you get interested into some other kind of income streams. This is what the placement suggests, that when Darakarka is in the 11th house, you get multiple channels open through your spouse for the income, for generating wealth, for getting gains in your life. So this does mean that because your attention and your focus is not diverted to 2 or 3 things, that is why your own profession which you were into before marriage can see some opportunities are shrinking, or somewhere or the other you are, making it small. You are trying to wrap it up, or you are just trying to neutralize it, that whatever amount of presence I have in my already established profession, I don't want to increase that. It would remain same over like the next 5 to 10 years. This is what this particular placement suggests, that somewhere or the other your partner is going to give you or is going to help you in some manner, so that new income streams could generate for you or for both of you collectively actually. So this is actually this kind of a placement. The other thing is that with this particular placement, very specific that you are already established in some kind of a profession before you get married, because if you do so, if you marry someone before getting settled in your career, that might pose that might pose some challenges in your married life. So it is very important for you to be specifically working somewhere. It does not matter if you are earning well or not, these two things are totally different. If the earning part is more related to the 11th house, but the working part, the karma is specifically related to your 10th house. So it is important that you are working somewhere, that you have a workplace of yours, that you have a set of colleagues for in your life before you get married. This is very important. Why? Because if you do so, like if you are in your masters, or I have seen people that they are to become a doctor, the study it requires to become a doctor is quite long. So what people do is that after they graduate from MBBS, they get married to someone. That I have seen that in the phase of people in their masters or in their post graduation, they have this tendency of getting married to someone, because the profession would be, or the study is something which would go for life, and let's marry first. But with this, it can be something of a it can be beneficial for some other person, because they are not having this particular combination. But because of the fact that you have this particular placement in your chart, Darakarka is in the 11th house, it is very important for you to get a job first, to get a working environment first, then you get married. Because if you do so, that if you marry before getting settled in your career or starting your career, actually I must say, like starting your work front, activating your 10th house, you might see severe problems, severe challenges in your work front after getting married. Because I have told you, the opportunities would shrink, they would start to shrink, because whatever you have done, whatever you have studied, and you want to make your profession in that domain, it might get difficult after marriage, for you to grab opportunities or something like that. If you think that whatever I have studied, or whatever profession I wanted to, or whatever domain I wanted to make my profession in is something I don't want to work into now, and I want to switch to something totally different, then you must get married before switching into some other thing. Then this placement would help you to actually get married first, and upon this Darakarka activating sitting in the 11th house, you would get a lot of ideas, opportunities and help from your spouse, and he would help you a lot to switch into some other field or domain. So this is something which you have to particularly understand with the Darakarka sitting in the 11th house. Now the other thing is that when the Darakarka is in the 11th house, the material prosperity of the 11th house only manifests, the true material prosperity of the 11th house only manifests after your marriage. So even if you are coming from an affluent family, from a very well-to-do family, but still something or the other is lacking. The true potential of your relationship with your elder sibling would also activate upon your after your marriage. So these are some things like the amount of potential your 11th house has can only be activated after marriage and through marriage. So it is important for you to get married in life, otherwise you won't be able to tap into that actual potential of your 11th house. So in order to activate that materialistic side of the 11th house, that true materialistic side of the 11th house, it is important for you to get married. Now the next and the most important thing, which is very important for all of you. Why? Because this is something which is under your control, under your own control. That till the time you are unmarried or single, you do not have, this is I am telling specifically about marriage. It does not matter if you are dating someone or not. Till the time you are not married, you cannot make any major decisions related to the 11th house based on the tattva of your Darakarka planet. So let's say if your Mars is a Darakarka and it is sitting in the 11th house, so you cannot make any important decisions either in your social circles, related to your gains, your incoming wealth, your elder sibling, your relationship with your elder sibling, and anything which is concerned to the 11th house in anger. Why? Why is the anger? Because Mars is your Darakarka. I have taken the Mars to be the Darakarka in the 11th house. So basically you cannot use the tattva of that planet, Darakarka planet, in order to make major decisions of the 11th house. So if your moon is the Darakarka, you cannot make any emotional decisions in the 11th house domain. If your sun is the Darakarka, you cannot make any decisions based on the ego or pride or something like that related to the 11th house. If your Saturn is the Darakarka sitting in the 11th house, so you should not delay any important decisions related to your 11th house. If you think that this activity is something which should be done, like this act should be done because it might help me to get gains or to achieve that particular gains, but at the back of your mind you are thinking, let's delay it, let's get matured, let's give it some more time. No, this approach would fail because you are unmarried and the Darakarka planet's tattva would not manifest in a positive manner in your life till you are unmarried. So it is very important for you to understand that you cannot use the energy of the Darakarka planet in your 11th house life domains. Other than that, you can use the Darakarka tattva planet. So basically if your Mercury is the Darakarka sitting in the 11th house and you want to particularly go through all the details possible regarding some educational course which you want to enroll in after your 12th, so definitely that is something you can do. So 11th house is something which you should not be activating in any manner before your spouse enters your life. It is very important for you to be very careful of this particular thing which I have told you, the tattva and the 11th house decisions, because somewhere or the other you would be tempted in your life at least twice to make such kind of decisions. But specifically if you are at the juncture of your life when the Darakarka planet is not mature. So let's say your Saturn is a Darakarka and you are only 23 years old. So your Saturn is not mature, you are unmarried, and if you take any decision based on the tattva of the Saturn related to the 11th house, it would, there's high possibility that it would backfire. So it is very important for you to be careful of this particular fact. Otherwise, this position is actually a good one because the Darakarka planet is sitting in the 11th house, it's a Upachya bhav, and with time, as the relationship, your marital relationship would grow into a better, bond, the 11th house would also start giving you better results with time. So this is how you decode the placement of the Darakarka sitting in the 11th house of your D1 chart. Now, if you want to check your Darakarka sitting in the Navamsa chart, go check out the video. I have given the link in the description below. Also, I have made the video about Darakarka through all the nakshatras. I would give that link too in the description, so you can go and check it out. Now, let's move ahead and let's understand the placement of the Darakarka in the 12th house of your D1 chart. Now, when you have your Darakarka placed in the 12th house of your D1 chart, the first and the foremost thing with this particular placement is that the spouse would influence your 12th house domains, the things connected to the 12th house, the life themes connected to the 12th house. So it is basically your investments, your losses, your spiritual beliefs, your connection with spirituality, your liberation, your private room basically. So your spouse would influence it a lot, and they would control it actually. So your 12th house is controlled by your spouse. But this is the basic interpretation of the Darakarka, because we know that if the Darakarka is placed in the 12th house somewhere or the other, all the life domains are impacted by our spouse. Now, the more deeper way to understand this particular position is that when your Darakarka is sitting in the 12th house, the 12th house is of the foreign lands, and this particular position suggests that if your Darakarka is well placed, then you would see that upon meeting them, somehow or the other you started investing in your social circle, that you started meeting new people and you started investing your time with them, so that you can get some return, some kind of return from your social circle. But if this Darakarka is not well placed and is damaged, somewhere or the other you would see that your social circle starts to fade away with marriage. Your gains start to fade away with marriage. Your relationship with your elder sibling starts to fade away with marriage. So this is particularly very important to check, because why? It's actually a very tricky placement. When Darakarka is in the 12th house is something which you are completely unaware of if it is not having a major concentration of energies there. So, and Darakarka is placed there, and Darakarka in itself is a planet which you do not have any knowledge of, because this is the planet which is at lowest degrees in your chart, and you are completely unaware of this element in your life, right? So when the Darakarka planet is sitting in the 12th house, first of all, it also becomes very hard for the people to find their spouse, find their true spouse. Why? Because already it is the Darakarka planet and it is sitting really far away. So in my opinion, till the time you are not at all triggering your 12th house, you won't be able to find your Darakarka, your spouse. So it is very important for you to understand spirituality, to understand liberation, to understand foreign lands, foreign cultures. The other thing is that when the Darakarka is placed in the 12th house, as I have told you, it would depend if your gains and your social circle would grow, because you would be investing in it. Also, I have seen when the Darakarka is placed in the 12th house, many people, like so many people, they start their investment journey after getting married. So they simply were the people who were just keeping their money in the bank account, and after they are married, they get this knowledge of investment and they start investing. So this particular thing, if it has happened in your life, then you can say that your Darakarka is sitting in a good dignity in the 12th house. If somehow you see your gains, your incoming wealth, your social circle, your elder sibling, your relationship with your elder sibling is suffering, then this Darakarka is not in a good dignity in the 12th house, right? The other thing is that the true material prosperity of the 12th house is only activated upon your marriage. Like after your marriage is when your 12th house would actually start manifesting, like the material prosperity. This is not the abstract prosperity. The abstract prosperity of the 12th house is like getting enlightenment, getting understanding the knowledge of the universe. But the material prospects of the 12th house are really materialistic. Like what, the biggest wealth yogas are created from the 12th house, because Venus gets exalted in the 12th house. The 12th house is not only about losses, it's also about charity and donation. So why? Because you have ample amount of money for yourself, like you have so much of surplus that you are donating it, you are giving it into charity, because Venus gets exalted in the 12th house, So that is why actually the 12th house is the purest form of material prosperity. So if you have any wealth yogas which are being created in the 12th house, they would only be unlocked after your marriage. This is first of all, this is the first thing. Now the other thing is that somewhere or the other you would see that your spouse, your partner is coming from a similar kind of a social circle which you are into, or your spouse is coming from a similar kind of a workplace family, but yet they are foreign to you, yet they have some kind of a they will have some kind of a foreign element in themselves which would place you people in different like baskets, which would place both of you in totally different baskets. Now this foreign element could also be cultural difference, ethnicity difference, or financial difference, or any kind of difference, but there would be some kind of foreign element in your spouse because you do not have it, you lack that particular thing in your life. But specifically they are coming, your spouse is coming from a place or from an environment which you are very well aware of. Actually you have been working in that particular environment. So somewhere I have seen, like, this is actually the placement of a doctor getting married to another doctor, but they find each other totally different. Why? Actually this is the placement of a doctor getting married to a child of another doctor. So you see, the person they are marrying is not a doctor, but they were born and they were raised in that kind of an environment because your spouse's parents were doctor. So this is the example which I am trying to make you understand. This necessarily does not mean that your profession and your in-laws profession would match. It might match in certain cases, but this kind of similarity can be seen in other terms also. Maybe they are coming from a business family and you are also running a business, but because they are coming from a business family, so they are not very well versed in the business terms or something like that, but they know what kind of environment it is, right? So this is something very important which I could decode from this particular placement of the Darakarka in the 12th house. Now the other thing which is very important for you to understand is that this is because this is in your hands for everyone who is having their Darakarka in the 12th house, specifically till the time you are unmarried. Because if your Jupiter is not well placed and it is not affecting your 7th house, it is not your Darakarka, your 7th house of the D9 is also damaged, somewhere or the other you people would see a delay in your marriage, right? Because your Darakarka is in the 12th house, that we get to know from the D1 itself. So there would be a lot of things which would be needed after this particular placement so that your marriage manifests early in your life. But because of the fact that you are the possible people who would see the major delay in their marriage, so till the time you are unmarried and you are not having your spouse, this is not about dating. Even if you are dating people, the dating does not count, because marriage is something which is totally different and dating is something which is different, right? So till the time you are unmarried, you do not have to make any important decisions related to the 12th house based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. So for example, your moon is the Darakarka sitting in the 12th house. So you cannot make any decisions in an emotional state related to your 12th house. What does it require? Settling to a foreign place, settling in a foreign land, losing your money, giving away your money in charity, donation, investments, any kind of innovation in your family business specifically. You should not be doing it in an emotional state if your moon is the Darakarka. If your Mars is the Darakarka, you cannot do any of these things, 12th house related things, in an anger state without thinking twice over the decision. And this is something which I would not recommend as an approach to be taken for making any decisions related to the 12th house. If your sun is the Darakarka, ego issues, ego battles, self-pride, all of these things They should not come in between when you are making decisions for the 12th house and you are unmarried. So it is very important for you to understand that anything, any kind of foreign travel, foreign settlement, foreign investments in general, charity donation, anything, basically your any major decision in your private room also, you should not take it till the time you are unmarried based on the tattva of your Darakarka planet, because 99% of the time it would backfire. And this is something which is very important, which I must tell you why. Darakarka planet is the most materialistic planet in your chart, and it would tempt you to do this mistake either once or twice in your life. And this is where we create the windows of the karma, which we have to pay back off in several lifetimes. So that is why I'm telling you that your Darakarka is already sitting in a very karmic house, in the 12th house. So it is better that you stay away from all the major decisions, 12th house related decisions, and specifically based on the tattva of the Darakarka planet. It is very important for you to understand this. So this is how you decode your Darakarka placed in all the houses of your D1 chart. And I have given the link in the description below for the video of Darakarka in the Navamsa and Darakarka through all the nakshatras in your D1 chart. Both the links are in the description below. You can check it out from there. And do let me know in the comment section below what new topics you would want me to bring up on this channel, and we would discuss upon them. And I promise that from now on videos would be coming in more frequency and without any delay. If you learned something new from this video, please do not forget to like it, share it with your friends and family, and for more such quality content, do subscribe Galactic Echoes Astrology. Thank you.